Welcome back to another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. I am your host, Cameron Red, and I am thrilled to have you join us for another insightful episode as we delve into the many layers of wellness. Today, we're continuing our exploration of spiritual wellness with our guest, Rev Joanne Angel BarryColon, one of our featured speakers for this year's Virtual Wellness Summit. Rev Joanne is the owner of Wholistic Fitness NY and is passionate about empowering others to use their intuition as a tool for self-advocacy and personal growth. She encourages us to release old habits, beliefs, and philosophies that no longer serve us, those that we've been programmed and conditioned to believe. Now is the time, she says, to create a holistic healing practice that aligns with who we truly are. Now, in today's episode, Reverend Joanne will guide us on how to tap into our intuition to advocate for our own well-being and embrace a more holistic approach to life. So, with that being said, I want to welcome to the stage Reverend Joanne, and let's get started. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, and you?
I'm great. I'm so great. Thank you for showing up and being a part of this podcast. Even more, thank you so much for being a part of the virtual summit.
Well, thank you for having me, and most importantly, thank you for doing this. This takes a lot of work, a lot of energy, and discipline to do what you are doing to make all of this come into play.
So thank you. Now, we're going to hop right into this interview. My first question for you is, can you tell us about Wholistic Fitness NY and the journey into your journey into the wellness industry?
Okay, well, how much time do we really have? So I'm going to give you a real short version because it is long.
Okay.
So once upon a time, a Wholistic Fitness NY used to be called Fitness or Us, going back in 2001 when I first opened my storefront of 22 years. In the process of the loss of a 12-year relationship, and about 4 years afterwards, my mom crossing over unexpectedly, a lot has changed in that journey, and I tapped into many healing modalities. And with those healing modalities, it was one of those situations where I had my personal training business and I had my healing modalities. And I kept wondering, well, am I supposed to blend them together or really work separately with these two? And I kept hearing from Spirit, my mom, it's time to blend them together. So I guess spiritually started attracting clients for the two services as I blend them together. And then eventually I started realizing that the original name, Fitness or Us, wasn't really fitting with the services that I was starting to offer. And I, again, kept asking, okay, so what should the new name be? And Spirit, my mom, said, I heard Holistic Fitness. So when I was sitting there writing it, I then heard her say, write it with a W as opposed to with an H. And I was like, oh, that's clever, Ma, because holistic is the whole person in regards to the body, the mind, the emotions, and our spirit. And that's exactly what I do when I work with clients, is work with the whole person. It's not just a focus on their physical body. It's really about helping them to transform their emotions, their mindset, their body, and then that in itself transforms their spirit.
Awesome. Now, your focus has been on helping women over 40 revolutionize their health and wellness. What unique challenges do women in this age group face, and how do you address them?
Well, the unique challenges is really about the old beliefs and the translation going back to 2020, when every one of us, if we go back to the pandemic, every one of us was encouraged, I like to use that word, encouraged and inspired to quiet ourselves down and to isolate and go into a state of solitude. And by doing so, that encouraged us and inspired us to really tap into who we were on a soul level, tapping into our intuition. And through that process, and what were we in that process for almost a year, where we were literally quieting ourselves down and minimizing the amount of people we were surrounded by. So the more we quiet ourselves down, the more we became more sensitive to energies, and our frequency started rising. And as our frequency started rising, at least for me, I noticed that some of the beliefs and habits I've had as a personal trainer for 40 plus years were really not aligned with me anymore. So in my mind, I was like, well, if this is not aligned for me anymore, I'm sure there's lots of women that are struggling with looking for the results, trying to get to their results, yet they're doing it with the old, I like to use the words, the old-fashioned way, the old principles of regarding personal training, regarding nutrition, and for that matter, their wellness. So as I came about, different women who started reaching out to me with their struggles regarding, well, why aren't they seeing the results they're looking to see? A big part of it was the resistance they were having in regards to their mindset of letting go of what I like to call and what's usually known as a calorie deficit, or having to track so many calories in your day. So that resistance, that constant having to be in the know of everything they're eating, every step they're taking, and then of course the limitations and restrictions that they were literally having with their own body. And that itself creates a blockage in their system for them to see the results they're looking for. So having to come up with a soundproof remedy for clients that would come to me with this struggle. And that's where revolutionizing health, fitness, nutrition, and wellness really came into play, to educate them on the principles and the process behind. We have to let go of some of the old mindset, some of the old habits, so we can transform, translate, transition, and evolve into who we really are on the higher frequency.
Okay. Now, how does spiritual wellness integrate with physical fitness, nutrition, and overall well-being in your practice?
The spiritual wellness part of it, my favorite expression is, we are spiritual beings having multitude of human experiences. And with that being said, they really do go hand in hand. We really cannot approach our physical fitness prescriptions unless we really tap into our spiritual well-being, who we are spiritually speaking, understanding the contracts and the agreements that we have with our physical body, and whatever is attached to that contract and agreement, whether it be nutrition, how to create a better relationship with food. Because there's many women who do have an awful relationship with food, that in their mindset, they feel that, oh, if I eat this many calories, that they're going to get fat. And that itself creates a resistance, and it creates a block. And then in addition to the process of the relationship with food, it's teaching them to fuel and feed, not just their physical body, but fuel and feed, taking that nutrients in regards to their mindset, shifting that whole process. So spiritual wellness, physical fitness equals that spiritual being that we really are, and approaching it in that way, because it's not two separate things. It's like having health insurance for your health, but not having, let's say, a wellness plan for your physical body.
Yes. Now, you mentioned the importance of releasing old habits and beliefs. What are some common misconceptions and beliefs you see holding people back in their wellness journey?
Well, a big belief, old belief, or a misbelief is the fact that, again, how many calories does one need to have in order for them to reach their specific goal? Now, to start off with, let's get to the truth of the matter. There is not one size fit all. And unfortunately, me being in the industry for 40 plus years, this is what I hear many practitioners talking about, that this is what you're required to take in the course of your day. This is how many calories you need to burn. And that's a one size fit all. And we have to let go of the cookie cutter approach. And we, again, have to come back into what is the agreement, what is the contract to this person's weight that they're holding. In fact, theoretically, when we talk about the beliefs, the old beliefs, is really getting into that understanding to, and I literally just talked about this morning, get into the understanding to what was going on in this woman's life at the time when the weight started showing up. What trauma, whether it might have been a loss of a parent, or something more traumatic, that at that point in time, they literally had this agreement for that weight to show up. Now, when we talk about weight or we talk about obesity, the metaphysical explanation behind it is literally a psychological wall that we build around our bodies to protect us from something or someone. So the key component is to help that woman get to that place of understanding that we need to go deep to discover what the connection is with their weight, and letting go of the belief that it's about diet. That they have to be on a diet in order for them to lose the weight. And
Yeah, I often tell people, because I'm a registered dietitian and nutritionist, that diet is almost like a curse word. It's not a diet. Diet are quick fixes to what you would deem microwave type problems. What we look for and what we focus on is creating lifestyle changes. These are changes that are going to be significant to your life, going to help improve your life, not just a trending diet. So I definitely get exactly what you're saying. Um,
exactly.
Now, you've achieved a significant milestone by winning first place in the natural bodybuilding competition, NPC natural bodybuilding competition. How did this experience shape your approach to wellness?
To really be honest, it didn't.
Okay.
It didn't. My approach to wellness, my approach to just the connection I have with my physical body and the connection that I help women to have with their physical body, for me, getting on stage was really more about having a reason to push myself a little bit more in regards to, and at that time, in regards to just being a stronger version of me. It wasn't so much about the first place and how is it going to transform me or make me see myself in a different light. It was just really about my reason to transform my body. Now, in theory, if you would ask me, would I compete again? In theory, every so many years, I get on stage and do a competition. And a
Hmm.
big part of that is just to see if I can get myself back into that quote unquote shape, that discipline. And I think about it now in my 50s because my last competition was when I was 44. And I asked myself, would I really want to put my body under that type of stress? And
Okay.
I want to emphasize the word stress because, again, whether it's for competition purposes or for most women that are really trying to, and I'm going to use this phrase, really trying to beat themselves up to look a certain way, where
Okay.
they stress their body out by trying to get to that particular look, that having a six pack or striations or whatever not. It takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of stress on the body to get to that point where we're walking around with a single digit body fat.
Okay. Now, you've authored several books on healing, meditation, and personal transformation. Which one of your books do you recommend for someone new to spiritual wellness, and why?
The book I would recommend, and it's interesting because I literally just posted it on your link, is called Healing with Numbers. And let me explain the book. The book is about numbers based on numerology. And it literally is the gateway that when we can understand numbers, numbers have a specific energy to it, it has a specific power to it, and it can provide so much insight when you understand numbers, whether it's let's say the number 123. We look at the clock and we see the number 123 right off the bat. For me, that lets me know that everything's in perfect order. And wherever we are on our journey right now, looking at the clock or looking at a license plate or looking at the receipt that you get when you purchase your groceries or you're at a diner or whatever not, looking at that number and then reducing that number to a single digit can give you insight to where you are right now in your journey. So that is my go-to book. I mean, I have plenty of books, but that's the one I always recommend people to read. It's a really easy read. It's a fun read. And it gives you insight on, let's say, your life path number, your personal energy year number, and how to really utilize the letters in your name to determine whether or not your name has power behind it. And it's definitely, and not just because I wrote the book, but it's one of my favorite books.
Listen, and that's why I asked about it. I wanted to know. Now, are there any other books that you've written that are out there for us to explore?
Oh yes, there's a list of them. One is called, let me see if I can remember, Healing Within Meditations. It's actually the very first book I wrote. There's 16 guided meditations in the book with an image to go with each meditation. And then there is, which is another favorite, Creative Cash Flow. And it's so out of character to the types of books I do write. And what basically is my secrets to how I create extra cash flow into my life, where I'm not stressing over, like, if I want to do a specific something, like, for example, being a part of your event, it activating that cash flow to come in. So it's like, the magic that shows up. So that book, again, is called Creative Cash Flow. And then there's another one, which is Declutter, Reshape, and Feng Shui. That one I actually co-created with another woman who's a Feng Shui specialist. And that book really originated from a book that I wanted to write based on just declutter and reshape. And we think about declutter and reshape, like, how do they go together? And it's interesting because once we start decluttering, let's say, our space, we begin to declutter our mindset. And as we declutter our mindset, we can begin to reshape our physical body at the same time. So they go really nicely together. And I'm trying to remember the other titles. Offhand, I can't remember them all.
Okay, that's okay. What I'll do is I'll create a space when we are done, and I'll have you email me over all your book titles, and I'll put them in the description of this podcast. So if anybody is interested, and are they on your website?
Shame me to say, no.
Okay, that's okay. You guys will get the name of these books for you. Now,
yes.
You talk.
Did I lose you? Mm-mm. I think I lost you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. What I was stating was you emphasized or you talked about using intuition earlier to advocate for yourself. How can someone begin to tap into their intuition for better health and wellness decisions?
Well, the key to intuition is just sitting quietly in meditation. Now, let me explain this before we get all crazy about, oh my God, I don't like to meditate. I can't meditate. I can't sit still. Meditation has come a really long way, and you don't have to sit still with meditation. The concept of it is getting to that place where you can just sit quietly for, let's say, 1 minute and just bring your awareness to whatever you hear around you, allowing yourself to recognize that you have intuition. I mean, we've all heard the expression where I have that gut knowing of something. Mm-hmm. And that gut knowing of something is your intuition guiding you. So when you're getting those butterflies or you're getting those cramps that, many women think it's related to other things, those cramps could be a sign of your intuition activating and helping you to advocate for yourself. And a big portion of utilizing our intuition is about learning how to tap into your intuition to ask your higher self, what is the best approach for me for today? It's like we said earlier regarding the cookie cutter approach regarding nutrition, where fueling and feeding the body, would it be a good idea for me to have X, Y, and Z today based on food? Check in with your intuition, and your intuition will let you know, yes, you need to have this today, or nah, you don't need this today. And it's something that I recommend that we do on a regular basis every day, because what we may need today to fuel and feed ourselves, our body and mind, we may not need that tomorrow or later in the day. And when we learn how to tap into the intuition, again, through meditation or just sitting and being still, turning off the radio, turning off the distractions, allows us to really tap into our own intuition and using our intuition as to help us advocate through what we need for ourselves, as opposed to someone else telling us, this is what you need to do. Yeah. And when you learn to approach your intuition in that way, to advocate for your own health, to advocate for your own nutrition, to advocate for your own physical body and your wellness, then everything comes into alignment because you're checking in with you as a spirit.
Okay. Now, what role does spiritual communication play in your personal health practices, and how can others benefit from connecting more deeply with their spirituality?
So your first question is, what role does spirit communication play regarding fitness?
Yeah, regarding your personal health practices, whether that's fitness, nutrition.
Perfect. I love that. Well,
Mhm.
let's start off by saying that we have a humongous spirit team up in heaven. We have angels, we have fairies, we have loved ones that have crossed over, we have ancestors that we've never met, and they're all there to support us. The idea of it is sitting and having an open conversation, just like you and I are doing right now, and just being open to listening to what comes through. And when we practice, it gets easier and easier and easier to be able to distinguish that there's another energy in the space with you and guiding you. Again, going back to, let's say, our intuition, it's the same concept of that spirit communication. Does it serve me today to do X, Y, and Z? Just as I said earlier, when I was in the process of changing my business name because I knew it didn't fit me anymore, I kept asking the question out loud. And my mom kept giving me insight. So it's like
Mm.
asking the question out loud and then being in that space of getting in that knowing that, okay, there's another person here with me energetically. And being open to, something just showed up. And it can show up as a sound, it can show up as a picture, it can show up as a number, which is another reason why healing with numbers is so important, because those numbers that come through to me is a very spirit message we're looking to connect with so we can be more aligned. Because again, spirit messages is the alignment that we have as a spiritual being. The more we connect with ourselves within, the more we have access to spirit messages. And it's one of my favorite things to do with anyone who's recently lost a loved one or who's lost a loved one for a long time and they're missing them, is having that access of knowing that that loved one is right there with you. They are
Oh,
always with you. And being able to have that conversation and asking those deep-hearted questions, whether it's to about your health, your wellness, your fitness, nutrition, whatever it is, that connection we have with spirit.
okay. Now, can you share with us some of your favorite spiritual practices or rituals that have been particularly transformative for you or your clients?
Yes. One of my favorite is moon energy.
Mm.
I happen to be a moon child. I love moon. So when we have a full moon, I'm definitely right outside and literally outside. I think my neighbors think I'm a little crazy because I'm outside, all hands up in the air, connecting with the energy, having an actual conversation with the moon. Speaking with the moon, just like we would in regards to sunbathing, I'm outside moon bathing, connecting and asking the moon to help me release what I no longer need in my field at this particular time. In addition, working with crystals. Crystals is another one of my favorites where the connection of if there's something going on physically in my body, I grab a specific crystal to work with it, keep it with me throughout the day, and
Mm-hmm.
using that as my a method of healing and letting go of what I no longer need. My other personal favorite as a ritual, and I'll show you them, cards, which I
Oh,
created. I created this deck and I play with them every day. So if I have a specific question, again, I mean, I can sit quietly and connect with spirit, but sometimes it's more fun to pull a card and say, hey, what do I need to know for today? And if you like, at some point before we leave today, I can do just that for us. So those are some of my
yes, we definitely, before we get off, I'm going to have you do that for us, okay?
perfect. So those are some, and there's so many more rituals that I follow and I teach, and I do on a regular basis. So crystals, card readings, the moon, essential oils, and just again being in my body, tapping on my body, literally tapping the energy to move the energy, very important. It gets things going. So when we feel stagnant or stuck or even blocked, tapping. Literally the heart, especially. Like, how King Kong does it?
Yep. Yep.
It's the same thing, bring that energy in. And so many of us
Yeah.
struggle with heartache, from sadness, grief, loss. And when I use the word loss, it's not just about losing a loved one, it's about losing a job, losing a friend. I mean, we're in a time of our lives right now where there's a lot of losses because many of us, again, as spiritual beings, we are transforming. So we're literally losing layers of ourselves so we can transform into the being and the spiritual being that we are meant to be. And sometimes we have a challenging time accepting the fact that I'm not that version of me anymore.
Yeah.
Or having a challenging time stepping into the soul person that you are. So tapping on the heart to open the heart so we can receive. Because as women, we are not supposed to be out there grinding and hustling. We are supposed to be in that feminine energy of receiving. And then it makes things so much easier just to flow in
Yeah.
as opposed to hustle, 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 hustle. And believe me when I say, I was on the other end of that table where it was hustle, 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 hustle. And then finally one day, getting to that understanding from one of my mentors, like, you know what? You need to be a little bit more feminine. I'm like, you're not telling me I'm not feminine. Well, you are feminine, but your approach needs to be. And it took me a really long time to understand what she meant by that. And then finally, I'm like, oh, I don't have to do so much. All I have to know is I can receive. I just set out the intention to what it is I'm supposed to do. I trust the process, the contracts and agreements that I have with my higher power, and know that I'm here to serve and help. And because
Yes.
I know I'm here to serve and help, I just open my energy and then I attract. And it makes a difference between all the doing, doing, doing. We're not so tired at the end of our day because we're literally allowing ourselves to be vulnerable to receive.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give to someone who's just beginning their journey into spiritual wellness but feels overwhelmed about where to start?
Breathe.
That's actually really good advice, though.
I know that sounds really simple and like, okay, breathe. Yes, because one of the things we do as humans, and I often find myself that I do it a lot, is we tend to hold our breaths because it's like, again, going back to that doing, doing. We think we have to constantly do something. That we have to like, oh, I need to know the answer to this. I need to figure this out. I need to figure that out. Breathe. Slow your roll. Slow the roll. Recognize that you are a spiritual being and you're not moving into your spiritual journey. You're not awakened to your spirituality. You're already there. You're just recognizing that, oh, this is where I am now. So allowing yourself to be in that space of just breathing and allowing yourself to get to know who you are without all the doing. And again, open your heart up and everything you need that serves your purpose will start coming in. Will start coming in. That is my advice.
Cool. I love that. That's very true, though, too. Now, how do you help clients navigate the process of decluttering both physically and spiritually to improve their wellness?
I love this one. I literally and again decluttering. I literally will tell them, suggest to them, go home, one room, whether it be your closet or one drawer, depending on what level of task you want to approach, and clean it out. One room or one drawer or one closet. Clean it out. Create several piles of what you're keeping, what you're throwing away, what you're donating. And when we're focusing on what we're keeping, if you've utilized it within the last 4 seasons, you can keep it. If you have not touched it in the last 4 seasons, it's either got to go into donate or to throw out pile. Then after you're done with that process, give yourself, and I always say to the client, I ask them to give me a number, whatever that number is. So, Cammie, give me a number.
8.
Okay, I love the number. So theoretically, if I had Cammie working on cleaning out her closet, I would then suggest for the next 8 days for Cammie to pay attention to what's going on around her. Because as she's decluttered the space, and this holds true with our health and fitness goals as well, in regards to results don't just happen overnight. They happen over a period of time, and that we have to pay attention. So the 8-day period, paying attention to what is showing up, who is fading away, and what is coming in the process of things fading away. And the bigger the spaces that you literally release, the more energy that's going to come in. And over time, that release and that decluttering transform a whole new chapter for the individual in the process of decluttering their space into their spiritual journey and their physical journey and even their well-being.
Awesome. Okay. Now, in our pre-interview questions, you'd mentioned something about creating inspirational videos as a way to stay motivated. How do you incorporate these videos, and what impact do you think they have on the audience and keeping you connected to your mission?
Well, every single day, I like to show up. Every single day, I like to be seen. And every single day, I like to hear myself talk. And being able to hear myself talk, I want to make sure that I am sharing something of value and inspiration. Okay. So I'm loving TikTok because they give you that 10-minute platform to share. And it's 10 minutes. So it's literally where you can't go overboard. And you can go less. You can set it up for less than 10 minutes if you like. And just coming up with a specific topic. And sometimes I'll do an inspiration video without a clue to what it is I'm going to talk about. I hit the camera, turn it on, and at that very moment, spirit guides me into what it is I'm going to share. And using that to inspire. And for most of my videos, at the end, most of them, I ask the audience, in what I've just said, what resonated with you? What has resonated with you in what I've just said? So it gives them an opportunity to think about it. You know, as opposed to me pinpointing different things, it gives that individual who's watching an opportunity to think about it, or even go back and re-listen. Like, oh, what resonated with me? You know, and I think that's a really important aspect, because now we have a reflection. Now we have a moment to like, oh, this resonated with me. Now, if you're like me, who has an Aquarius moon, which means I'm a thinker, I'm an evaluator, I'm analyzing, I'm analytical, and sometimes an overthinker, which may not be the best thing, I'll sit there and reflect. I'll go back and re-listen. Pay attention to what the speaker said. What was the highlight for me in what they spoke about? So I like to have that for the people who are listening to me as well.
Okay. I love that. Okay. Now, before we talked about the connection between nutrition and spirit communication, can you tell us how eating healthier has actually influenced not other people, but your particular spiritual experiences?
Yes, definitely can. And I'm loving that question too. Oh, this one's good. This one's a juicy one. How eating well, and when I use the word eating well, I want to put it out there that, again, the old beliefs that eating well means fruits and vegetables, high protein, the carbohydrates, etc. Eating well for me is I check in on my body and say, what do I need to eat today? And that can mean I'm going to sit there and eat a pint of butter pecan ice cream and enjoy every ounce of it.
There we go.
Loving it. Literally, as I sit with the food, as a Reiki master, I Reiki the energy of the food, and I also give an assignment to every part of the nutrients in the ice cream in regards to what my body is going to do with that ice cream. And that connection of understanding that if I am intuitively craving or desiring ice cream, There's something about that ice cream that I need. So making that connection to whatever it may be, it could be feeding my inner child. Because we got to remember, there's three parts to us. There's that spiritual being that we are, that people see of us. There's our higher self that knows everything about us and knows better than we do. And then there's the inner child. And
Yes.
the inner child needs to be heard and seen and appreciated. And when my inner child says, this is what she wants, I give my inner child what she wants. Now, I do have a rule of thumb with my inner child that if she goes on this crazy binge where like every day I'll have a conversation and let her know that we're not going to do this every single day. We're gonna have some self-control. And then some days my inner child overpowers what I'm saying
Okay.
because there's something that my inner child needs. So again, coming back to that intuition and understanding that certain foods, so for example, for someone who may be a vegetarian, them craving meat for them may be the most awful thing in the world to do because they don't eat meat. Yet craving meat could be the very thing we need for our root chakra to help ground us, to help get us more centered into the earth so we can literally focus on the task on hand. Just same way, and going back to the grief and loss, that if we are theoretically craving something sweet, we're tapping into our heart center because we're literally feeding that loss with the sweetness. So there's a reason when we think about different foods and the color of food too, like blueberries. When we talk about blueberries activate the throat chakra. So maybe you're about to speak, just like I'm doing here, and you need your throat chakra to be open so your words can be heard. So I might decide, you know what? I'm going to get me a handful of blueberries, blend them up and drink them. So this way here, I can activate my throat. So being aware of the colors of our food plays a big role in our chakra system in getting into that place of understanding again. Our food is really going to be in alignment to the connection that we have with our physical body, in back to intuition, being guided. What food do I need to eat today? How much of it do I need to have? And really getting into that place of knowing that. And for me, it's if I go into this point where I do the ice cream, I make eat ice cream every weekend for 6 weeks. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, ice cream stops, and I won't have ice cream again for another 6 months. So
Yeah.
really, it's about just checking in with the intuition and making that connection to nutrition and the spiritual connection on how it is, how our food is really connected with our chakra system, and what chakra may need the attention at that time based on what we're fueling and feeding our body.
I love that. I love that. Now, we talked about decluttering earlier, and you mentioned another one of your books that you partner with. Your practice includes elements of feng shui and reshaping environments. How does the physical space around us affect our spiritual and emotional health?
Well, to start off with, when we speak of the physical space and our emotional health, when there is just, and again, being that we are sensitive, again, I'm going to take us back to 2020. Most of us are intuitive, most of us are sensitive, most of us are empaths, which means when we just have just too much stuff around us, it throws us off course.
Mm-hmm.
It creates mental clutter, and that mental clutter can very well create sadness and even depression. So it's really important to organize the space you're in so you can be more productive, you can be more focused, and that you can literally move more freely in your space because the less space you have, the less you can move. And again, movement is key. We want to maintain healthy bodies, so we want to make sure we can move around freely. And I always believe too, when we speak on feng shui, setting up your space with office space,
Mm-hmm.
workspace, bedroom space, living room space, all of that plays a huge role on our physical health in regards to how much stuff we have around us and can we breathe. I said breathing before. Can we breathe? So here's a pointer when we think about space based on feng shui, the corners of every room should really be completely empty, because the corners of every room are our lungs, are our
Yes.
lungs, are our lungs.
You
So
got
if
me looking around my room right now, making sure that the corners are empty. Keep going. Keep going.
yes, they're our lungs. So if our corners are cluttered, our lung is cluttered, which prevents us from breathing, which then can very well cause respiratory issues, causes COPD, causes asthma, causes the heart to contract, where we're not fully living because our space is literally cluttered. So we do need to pay attention in reference to like our windows. Our windows are our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So what's in front of your windows? You have your windows where you can open them so you can see, because your windows are your eyes. So paying attention to every area of your space. When we think of the far right side of a room, and doesn't matter what room it is, the far right side of the room is your partnership area. The
Okay.
partnership you have with yourself and the partnership you have with others as well. So we want to pay attention to that space, because if that is cluttered, then we're literally cluttering the process of having a good relationship with ourselves and others as well. Now, on the right side, we have our partnerships. On the left side of the far side of the room, we have our wealth. And if that area is cluttered, that's blocking your abundance, whether it's financial, whether it's health, whether it's relationships. So we want to clear that space out as well. Every space has a specific purpose for us. It also affects our body.
I love that. I love that. You're gonna have me moving some stuff around in my room today.
Yes, yes. And remember, when you do, to think about a number, whatever that number is, and know that that's the amount of days it's going to take, and pay attention to what unfolds once you do start moving things around. Because again, we don't realize how serious and how important it is when we do move things around. When we move things around, we're moving energy. We're literally moving energy. And the impact of moving energy is like, well, why all of a sudden? Like, I have a quick story, which I had a client move things around. She was struggling at her job. And I didn't tell her the reason why I was having her move things around. And she moved things around. And 30 days later, she came back to me and she goes, oh my God, I walked into work and my boss told me I didn't have a job anymore. I'm like, and she's like, why are you applauding? I said, because you can't stand your job.
Yeah.
You complain about your job every single day. She goes, but now I don't have a job. I said, wait. I says, can you turn around and release that statement you just made? And she did. I said, now give me a number. And she goes, what's with you and your numbers? I said, because there's a reason behind my madness. So she gave me a number. I said, just be open to what's going to take place over this. And I think the number she gave me was 6. I said, be open to that 6. See what happens over the next 6 days. She literally came back to me and she said she had 6 opportunities, 6 offerings for 6 new jobs. 6. She had to choose from them. She literally had to choose her job, which was so perfect because, of course, it was the power in her own hands to decide the income. And she created her perfect soul career just from moving things around. And she's like, well, I'm going to go move things around again. I says, no. Now you need to settle in and let this do what it needs to do. I said, I will give you some insight to when you can move things around again. Because again, we do need to pay attention to how much we're decluttering, how often we're doing it, because we have to allow for the work to happen and take place to receive the reason why we're decluttering.
Okay, I love that. Now, for someone looking to release weight through a holistic approach, what key principles from your book, The Power to Release Weight, would you highlight?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about releasing weight is we have to get our story. We have to understand the story to the weight. Because again, everybody, I'm not even going to say everybody. Some people have this belief that they have to lose a certain amount of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're not aware of what the weight is associated with, what is connected to, why they called it in. And here's the big one, the payoff behind having the weight. And what I mean by the payoff, if that weight was called in to protect you from something or someone, and you're really not ready to completely forgive the situation, or you're not really ready to get into that space of being seen, where, for example, someone can actually hold on to weight because of flirtatiousness,
Mm-hmm.
where they literally put on weight just so people don't flirt with them.
That's
And the
true.
minute they go through that process to release the weight, now there's this whole different version of themselves. So it really is about when they are ready to approach that releasing process, it's going through the different steps again, tracking back. What is the agreement? What's the contract? What's the story? How old were you when you put on the weight? What was the connection with the weight? Are you really ready to let go of the weight by forgiving? And that's the key word here, forgiving the situation that is connected to the weight. That forgiveness is the highest level of healing. And then once you're really ready to go into that space of forgiving, then it's being able to create a new contract to the new version of you that's going to show up, that strong version of you. And then that mindset, allowing the mind to catch up with the process of transforming out of that old weight into this new version of yourself. And a
Okay.
big part of my process when it comes to releasing weight is not when a client comes to me about losing weight, I sit and explain to them, we're not losing weight. We're going to reshape it. We're going to recompose it. And I don't care what you weigh. I don't care what they come in at weighing at. If they come in weighing at 200 pounds at 5'5", which is not really tall, and 200 pounds in one's mind would be like, that's a lot of weight for that woman to be carrying. Let's transform it. Let's recompose it. Let's take it to a whole different vision and help you get stronger. So we're not no longer focusing on the weight on the scale as we now redirect the focus to other principles such as strength, such as power, such as energy, and more importantly, and should have probably been first, self-love and self-care.
I love
Loving
it.
the body you're in, no matter what size or what number your body is.
Okay. Now, how for you, how can you tell us how can fitness and movement enhance one's spiritual well-being according to your experiences and your teachings?
Well, I believe that movement is another key to connecting with spirit. For me, when I get into my workouts, my 45-minute workout, 5 days a week, it's my connection with spirit. It's my time where no matter what body part I'm working on, I know that I am embodying my physical body. I'm connecting with my chakra system, and I'm having a connection with spirit. That usually, more often than not, I get spiritual hits when I work out because I'm focused. I'm focused on my body. I'm focused on that rep, that exercise, where it's just really between me and my higher power. And that gateway opens up to allow me that connection to know that there's downloads coming in. It's like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like when we charge our phones, so we get that 100% on our phone. It's the same thing in reference to when we do the movement. And I focus on strength training with progressive overload versus, let's say, cardio. And reason being, when we strength train, we have to be 100% focused. If you're laying on a bench and you have a bar that you're about to do a bench press, and that bar has 135 pounds on it, and you're going to get ready to lift that bar, but you're thinking about your grocery list, that's not going to be a pretty outcome.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. if you're on the treadmill or you're going for a walk or you're taking a spin class, you can think about your grocery list, because you don't necessarily have to be mind body connection. And that's why my approach is, when we are literally in the process of strength training, moving our body where we embody literally every muscle of what we are working on at that moment of time, that gateway, that connection that we do have with spirit, and that conversation that can go on in your mind doesn't have to be an external conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It could be. It could be. If you don't mind people looking at you like you're a little weird. Like for me, I have my weight room right in my home, so I can talk out loud as often as I want with spirit connecting with me. So for me, it really is that gateway, connecting with your physical body, embodying your physical body for that spiritual connection.
Okay. All right. Now, this is my last question before I allow you to do our card reading. And then I have another question after we finish with that. Okay. So,
Sure.
what challenges have you faced in your personal wellness journey, and how have you overcome them?
What challenges have I faced and how have I overcome them? Here's one. I'm going to start it this way. At the age of 54, realizing I'm not 20, my husband reminds me of that all the time, that I'm not 20 anymore. And back in 2014, I had a hip replacement.
Okay.
And anyone who's had any major surgery, specifically replacements, there's just certain things that your body just cannot do anymore. You know, no matter what the what physical therapy is or rehab is, there's just certain things that restrict you. Now, I myself don't like the word restriction. I like to push through and say there's anything I can do. But then being real with myself and knowing that I'm not 20 anymore. And as much as I would love to get on my step and do a 30-minute step class and go for that long walk, or do squats or do the splits or whatever it is, knowing that I'm in a different stage of my life. And even my last competition, which was literally 1 month, was it 1 month? It was 1 month before my hip replacement. So even the choreography to my competition was very different, because prior years, I would be on that floor breakdancing and splitting, leg up in the air, this thing and that thing. And in my mind, it's like, well, how am I going to be able to present my poses with the restriction of my body?
Yeah.
And that took a huge mind shift in regards to doing it differently and realizing that it's okay to do it differently. So I still struggle with that whole process, because every once in a while, I want to think I'm 25 and I want to go and lift the weights and, challenge myself. And then days later, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Why am I so sore? Goodness. And then I remind myself, because you're 54 and your body's a little different now than it was with the hip. So just a mind shift going on right there.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to let you do our card reading right now. And then I have one more wrap up question after we're done with that.
Perfect. So how a card reading goes is, usually I ask the person I'm reading for a question. However, what I'm going to do today, maybe I will. Cammie, give me a question. Don't say your question out loud.
Okay.
Think about a question. Let me know when you have your question.
I can have my question.
All right. I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to see what insight shows up for you based on your question. Now, there we go. What I would like to know from you is, what's your month and day of your birthday?
June 20th.
June 20th. So you are on the borderline of Gemini, Cancer.
Yes, I am a Gemini Cancer cusp baby.
Yes, you are. And this year, you are what's called a 7 personal energy year. So this year is all about self-discovery.
Yes,
discovering
and
who you
it
are,
has been.
discovering who you are, going within and really allowing yourself some space from all the different people around you so you can discover who you are on a higher level. The connection, and this is not intuition, this is only because I follow you on Facebook. The connection you have with your grandma is extremely deep, and she's definitely one of, even though she's still here on earth, she's definitely one of your spirit guides supporting and guiding you on your journey. And the
Yes.
card that showed up for you is higher self. This is about the connection you do have with your higher self, the journey you're on. The purple is your crown. This is about you activating your higher consciousness, your wisdom, your soul's contract, and your ability to do beyond what you came here to do. The 11 is a master healer. You are here doing the work that you're doing as the master healer, helping the many women that come together in your events for them to literally allow their throat chakra to be unblocked so they can share their message. So the gift that you have as the master healer that you are, that 11 is also very much associated with community, collaboration, and network, which is exactly what you're doing and continuing to do. So how does that card sound to you?
That sounds about right. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And being that you're on that cusp between Gemini and Cancer, Gemini is your experience. Gemini is your networking. Gemini is exactly what you do. Speaking, writing, connecting people. And interesting because Cancer, on the other hand, is nurturing,
Yes.
caring, loving, the mama bear, wanting to be home. So some days you probably have that sort of like push pull energy, like, no, I really want to stay home and get under my blanket and watch a really cozy movie. And the other side is like, no, we have business to do. We have
And
business.
it's funny that you say that because even in business, I'm the nurturer, the mama bear, the one that, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, so that's the energy, and that seven personal energy here is that you're on your spiritual journey. You're evolving. You're evolving into this next version of yourself. So yes, there you go. There's your
Yes.
message.
And everything that you said is very true. And I can attest to that. I am definitely evolving into this next version of myself. So you are spot on and accurate with that one.
Yes, and to wear some purple because
Yes.
that will also. Do you have?
Okay.
I was gonna say, do you have purple on? Because yes, purple, purple, purple. Yes,
Okay. I'll be putting on purple. All right.
yes.
So, what is your final message or encouragement that you'd like to share with our listeners about embracing their spiritual wellness as part of their overall health journey?
The final message. The final message is recognizing that you are an intuitive being. And being that you are an intuitive being, everything that you are looking for, you're searching for, you're looking for that clarity is already within you. It's important to give yourself the time, give yourself the space, give yourself the opportunity, give yourself permission. Permission is a big word here. Allow yourself to embrace the person you are. Allow yourself to allow yourself to be seen and to be heard. I'm sure you've all heard this expression, your mess is your message. It's now more than ever important for you to share that message because you have a unique message. There is no two people on this earth, not even twins, that carry the same energies, that carry the same message. So this is your birthright. This is your year. As we're in this universal energetic year of 8, this is your year to rewrite your karmic contracts. So if there is anything that is no longer aligned with your spiritual energy, and that would be in regards to your belief system, this is your time to work on letting it go. Do the deep dive and focus on releasing whatever issues that show up in your tissues and be the spiritual being you're meant to be.
Oh, I absolutely love that message. And I received that on my own self. So thank you so much for being here with us. Today, it's been a pleasure and just an enlightening journey to have you here with us.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful to have you on the show. Please tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Best way to connect is either through Facebook. You can find me on Facebook under Joanne Angel BarryColon. And if you want to email questions or comments, or you want to get a reading with me, go ahead and email healingwithin76@gmail.com. And let's have a face-to-face. And as I always say, let's meet each other on the other side.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Okay, you guys, this has been another episode of the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. This concludes this episode. A heartfelt thank you to Rev Joanne Angel BarryColon for sharing her profound insights on using intuition for self-advocacy and releasing those limiting beliefs. Her work with Wholistic Fitness NY is a powerful reminder that true wellness involves aligning mind, body, and spirit. Now, if you found today's conversations enlightening, don't miss Reverend Joanne's full presentation at the Virtual Wellness Summit, where she'll dive deeper into creating a holistic healing practice. Visit our website for all the summit details and how you can participate. Thank you again for listening. And remember, your intuition is a powerful guide on your wellness journey. Embrace it, and let's work together to release what no longer serves us. Until next time, take care and stay well. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thank you so much and have a great day.